Now I have one question for you. What's happening in your neighborhood?
Well, good evening. I'm Carlton Sharp, pastor of Faith Christian Center Church, right here in Beaumont, Texas. And we're here on what's happening in our neighborhood. And tonight, my special guest is Pastor Randy Felshaw. Welcome, Pastor.
Hello, Pastor. It's so good to be with you and all of the audience that's watching. It's an honor to be on this program.
Well, Pastor, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 59 years old. I was born in Beaumont, raised in this area, been in full-time ministry since I was 19 years old. I've pastored 4 churches in 3 states. I've been back this time to Beaumont for 15 years now, pastoring what was Cathedral in the Pines Christian Center. Many people remember Coffee with Pastor Dabney, but here just recently we changed the name of the church. We did it last summer. We changed the name of the church to One City Church because for years now, going on 5 years, we knew that the name change was coming because it better reflected who we were as a congregation and what we do within the city. And so we changed the name from Cathedral in the Pines Christian Center to One City Church. And we're excited about what God's doing through our church. And then, as most people know, in 2019, I was elected to Beaumont City Council at large. And again, just me being involved in local politics fits in with who we are as a congregation and who I am as a local minister, because we are a church and I am a minister that's been heavily involved in bringing about transformation within our community.
So how has your first term gone for you, Pastor?
You know, Pastor, when you first get elected to city council, you attend a training in San Antonio, and you sit down and you're in there with all these new council members, and the first thing they say to you as a council member is they stand up and say, "We want to tell you up front that you're all idiots." Because they know that when you get involved in politics, it's amazing how people immediately just begin to say, well, they're all idiots, you know, and it doesn't take long for you as a new council member to discover how little you really do know about city government. And it has taken me this long just to get comfortable in the seat and to truly understand how city government works and what you can and you cannot do. It takes a while to understand the process and how the system works. And I can tell you this, that my first year on city council, the thing that I heard the most said to me, out of all the things that were said, the thing that I heard the most from City Hall was, no, you can't do that. Whether it's from the city manager, the mayor, or the city attorney. They were constantly having to say, council member, you can't do that. Because I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, I wanted to bring about change, I wanted to move things quickly, and I wanted to do in the city what I'm able to do in my church. And they had to constantly tell me, no, you can't do that. Whether it's federal law or state law, there's so many things that you can and cannot do. There's limitations that are placed on you. And that's why it takes a while to really understand how to maneuver and how to navigate through government to get things done.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. How does city government works versus the city management system, and how does it work?
Well, our government here in Beaumont is truly a city manager council type government. In essence, the city manager on a daily basis, he administrates the city. And the city council that's elected is a legislative body where we hire the city manager, we hire the city clerk, and we hire the city attorney, and then they actually administrate the city. And the city council is there to hire these people, to set budget, to set policy, and to give direction to the city. But actually, the city is run by the city manager and his staff.
Now, Pastor, people need to understand that you as a city council person just can't go to a department in the city and say, hey, listen, I need this to be done. Talk to us about that.
No, I don't go to departments. Now, I can go directly to the city manager. I can go to the city attorney, but I don't go to departments. Rather, it's public works, water, sewer, streets, whatever it is. I don't go to those department heads and give them instruction. I have to go to the city manager because those department heads work for him. And I talk to the city manager, and then the city manager can communicate to his department heads. But the city council does not administrate or run the city. And when you get a council member that's trying to run the city on a daily basis, you have a dysfunctional situation.
Now, Pastor, also people need to understand that it takes four. Nothing happens without four.
Absolutely. There's a lot of things, Pastor, that I would love to do and do it right now, but I can't because it takes 4 votes, as you mentioned, to get it done. And then also, there's certain things that we can't do because of state law. It just won't permit us to do. And there's a lot of things within local government that the average citizen just doesn't understand. And I don't expect them to, because I didn't even understand the full scope of it until I got elected to city council and I really began to get involved and I began to try to make things happen. And suddenly you start running into these limitations and you realize how hard it is to get things done.
So, Pastor, what are some of the biggest issues that you see that we need to address as a city?
Oh, boy, there's a list. Pastor, one of the things that I'm concerned about at this point is that Beaumont has been stuck at 118,000 since 1960. And we desperately need to change the narrative of Beaumont. We need to change the storyline. So many people either refuse to move here because of our narrative, the image that we carry, or they choose to move out of Beaumont the first chance, the first opportunity they get. And Beaumont as a city is stagnant. And we need to change the narrative. We keep losing our young demographic, the best and the brightest within our community. They keep moving away because of the quality of life that they have here. They want to move to Austin or Dallas or San Antonio. And that breaks my heart because I love Beaumont. I believe in Beaumont. And we need to change the narrative of Beaumont. We need to address this issue. And so that means that we've got things to tackle. We need to see economic growth. We need to see diversity in industry. We need to address the infrastructure. And we need to, if you would please, get some curb appeal when it comes to Beaumont. We need to change the attitude and the mindset of Beaumont. And that's why I believe this coming election is so important. Because we don't need just managers that can manage ideals and projects, but we need leaders that can inspire people, that can bring hope, that can pull the council and the city together at a consensus and then move it forward with a vision. We've got to see Beaumont grow. And I believe that starts with leadership.
So, Pastor, how can we change that narrative to cause the growth of different industries to come into our city?
Well, I do believe that it begins with leadership at City Hall. I believe that it begins there. And I do believe that there has to be a holistic approach taken. I believe there needs to be a partnership between civic, business, and religious leaders. I believe that we need to partner with BISD. We understand that our school district, I believe, is filled with some excellent people. I know some of the teachers and the principals, Dr. Allen and others. We have some good people in our school district, but we're facing some challenges. And so we need to come together as a community, and we need to work together to attract a diversity of industry here. Because right now, if you're a young person and you don't want to work in the refineries, you don't want to work at BISD, or you don't want to work in healthcare, then you're limited on what you can do. And so many of our young people are moving away to these other communities because of employment opportunity and then what they call the quality of life. And so we've got to address these issues in order to retain those young people so that we can grow as a community. And so it's going to take a partnership. City Hall by itself can't do this. It's going to take civic, business, and religious leaders working together to address these challenges that we're facing.
So, Pastor, one of the things that the council does is oversees a budget of almost $280 million. How can those resources be distributed throughout the city equitably?
Well, I was just talking to the pastors, and I know in the past, let's just take, for example, the infrastructure, our roads. And in the past, what we've tried to do as a city is we've tried to take the monies that are dedicated to road improvement and try to disperse it evenly among the 4 wards of our city. And when I got on council, at first I thought, that's a great idea. You're trying to be fair and put some of the money in every ward. But then the longer I served on the council, the more I realized that that's really not the right approach. Because some of our wards, like Ward 4 and 3, are starting, let's say, at a deficit because it's an older part of our city. And so you can't say that we're going to disperse the money equally among the 4 wards, because if you do, then those 2 wards are never going to catch up. And so I believe now that I've served on it now for over a year and a half, that what we need to do is we need to invest more money in wards 4 and 3, which are the older parts of our city, so they can catch up to wards 1 and 2. And then once they get caught up, then we can start moving forward and dispersing the money equally among the 4 wards. But until we all start at the same place, we're going to have to pay attention to those wards and those parts of our community that are suffering the most and try to address their challenges so that everybody can be brought up to the same starting point.
Now, Pastor, you have a unique responsibility because you're a council person at large. And at large means that you cover the whole city and not just one different area in our city.
Yes, it's our council is comprised of the mayor, which is over the entire city, of course, and then 2 at large, which at this time is myself and W.L. Pate. And those 2 positions represent the entire city, just like the mayor, and they're voted on by the entire city. And then the rest of it, of course, is the 4 wards, 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's broken up. Ward 4 primarily being in what we consider Pearl Orchard or the south end of Beaumont. Ward 3, the north end, and then Ward 1, which is considered like the old town area of Beaumont. It crosses over, East Tex Freeway and I-10 here in the Lucas area, and then Ward 2, which is primarily in the west end of town. So it is a mayor, 2 at large, and 4 wards.
So, Pastor, how is the campaign going?
It's a very challenging time right now, Pastor. Last year was a very difficult year for our community with the COVID-19, with the storms, with the very divisive presidential election. And then we come into this year and the COVID-19 continues. And sad to say, the presidential election continued with the divisiveness and all that was taking place. And then we had the winter storm last week. And so it's a different campaign. We can't campaign this time like we did last time because of the COVID-19. And our economy is taking a hit. It's a challenge to raise money this time for the campaign. Pastor, I don't know that the average citizen understands how hard it is to get elected to city council. I don't know that, some people would probably criticize me for being this transparent, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. The last campaign, it took me $60,000 to get elected. I had to raise that money. The bulk of that I had to raise, but I had to put thousands of dollars into the campaign because I couldn't raise all of it. The city doesn't pay council members a lot of money. You actually make gross $16,800 a year. Out of that, you have to take out your taxes, and you have to pay for your expenses as a council member. When I take someone out to eat, my gas, my vehicle, the things that I do. A lot of times when you go to a banquet, you pay for that yourself. There's this. It costs money to be involved in a community as a council member, and you pay for that yourself. It would actually probably be cheaper for me not to be on council, but I do this because I care, and it's not easy to get elected, and it's expensive, and then it's a 2-year term. It seems like I just was campaigning yesterday, and here I am campaigning again. And this election is going to be difficult because of the COVID-19 and then trying to raise money and trying to get before people. It's going to be a challenge, but we're going to do the best we can and then leave it in the hands of the citizens and hope that they'll vote and hope they'll vote for you.
Well, Pastor, do you think a 2-year term is enough to be able to, learn the process and get things done?
I don't. Pastor, I've always shied away from term limits because I felt we had term limits. We call them elections. Let the people decide who's going to serve. But I've been approached recently about term limits, and the way it was presented to me was this: we support a 3-year term, a maximum of 4 terms. That way, like for example, as city council member at large, I could serve 12 years, and then I'd have to step out. But then I could run for mayor and serve again, 3-year term, maximum 4 terms for another 12 years. And that would give me a total of 24 years. So the question was asked, would you support that? And I said, I think I would. I would consider that because I do understand that sometimes politicians can get entrenched into a position, and it makes it very hard for a new person to break in. But on the other side of that coin, there is an argument made for institutional memory. To be able to, for example, myself, being new on the council, I've looked to the other council members that have been there for many, many years and have drawn upon their wisdom. And so there is an argument for institutional memory. And so do I believe in term limits? I've shied away from it, but I would probably support it if it was a 3-year term for a maximum of 4 terms per position. So you can move on and serve in another position, but yet again, you're limited. But to answer your question, no, 2 years is not enough. It just, for example, you serve technically 24 months, 2 years. But the last 6 months of your tenure, you're really starting to campaign again. So you get 18 months to serve. And when you're a new guy like I was, it takes you a while to get settled into that position. So, I don't know that I really got comfortable with being on council until last June or July. So I've only been serving for 6, 7, 8 months. And here I am, I'm having a campaign again. So no, 2 years is just not enough.
So Pastor, can you tell us when is early voting and election day?
Early voting is April 19th through the 27th. And then, of course, it's Saturday. The election day is Saturday, May 1st.
All right, good. Hey, Pastor, now closing moments. Can you share with us what you would like those who are watching tonight to know about Randy Shaw?
Over the last 2 years, I've tried very hard to serve the citizens of Beaumont across the board in all 4 wards. I've tried very hard to be accessible. I put out my cell phone number, my email address. I take phone calls. I return phone calls. When citizens want to meet with me, I meet with them. I've gone to people's homes before that were having problems, whether it's with drainage or sewer, and I've gone to their homes to meet with them and tried to get and have been successful in getting City Hall to respond to them and come out to their home. I've tried hard to listen to the citizens of Beaumont and take their needs and their opinions into the council chamber when I went to vote. I want the citizens to know that I was serving Beaumont in the community before I ever knew I was going to be on city council. I did it for years through my church, through Not in My City, through my organization called United Aid for Southeast Texas, where we address hurricane and flood relief. With Harvey and Imelda, we've gone over $4 million that we've invested in this community, trying to help people that just couldn't help themselves. I still am doing flood relief. We're still doing it off of my campus there at the church, One City Church, still trying to help people with Harvey and Imelda. My point is, whether it's through the homeless situation, sex trafficking, violence in the streets, whether it's poverty, whether it's disaster relief, whatever it is, I've been doing this for years before I got on city council. I'm doing it now from city council, and I'll do it when I get off of city council. What I do for the city, I don't do because I'm a politician. I do it because I'm a leader and I care. And if the citizens choose to put me back on city council, I will continue to do what I'm doing. If they choose not to, I still will keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to stop because I do care and I do want to make a difference. And I have tried hard to make Beaumont a better place from City Hall. And a lot of what I do in this city, on city council, people don't know and they don't see because I do it behind the scene. And I'm fighting what I call a dysfunctional city council. And I'm trying very hard to bring that council together so that we can make a difference in Beaumont.
Well, Pastor, I forgot to ask you, if someone wants to volunteer or donate to your campaign, how can they get in contact with you?
Well, you have my cell phone number, of course, 504-1730. You can also go to randyforcitycouncil.com. You can go to Randy for City Council on Facebook. It will pop up, and you can follow me there. You can email me at randyforcitycouncil@gmail.com. You can email me. So you can email me, you can go to Facebook, you can go to my website, you can call me, you can text me. And so I'd love for them to contact me. We desperately need volunteers, and I desperately need financial support because, as I mentioned, this time with COVID-19, with the economy, it's going to be a challenge to raise money, and I've got to get out there and let people know that I'm running. And so let me say this, Pastor, in closing. Beaumont, please pay attention with this election. There's a lot of changes coming to council because we're electing a new mayor. That's a major change. Because W.O. Pate, who was at large, and Robin Mouton, who's in Ward 4, because they're running for mayor, there's 2 empty seats that have been created. And so there's changes coming to city council, and we need to pay attention. You need to vote, and you need to make sure you know who you're voting for. And you need to ask the question, what have these people done for our city before they ever decided to run for city council? Because for me, to be qualified to be on city council, whether you're the mayor or any other position, you should have first have been a servant within our community, and you should have proven yourself. And so you need to pay attention, Beaumont, and you need to vote.
Well, Pastor, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Hey, listen, again, early voting begins April 19th through the 27th. Election day is May the 1st. Now, if you haven't registered before April 1st, April 1st is the last day to register to vote for this election. Okay? So get registered, then go vote. Early vote, April 19th through 27th. Election day is May 1st. Again, listen, I want to thank Pastor Randy Felshaw for joining us today on What's Happening in Our Neighborhood. And I want to thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time on our broadcast.
Now I have one question for you. What's happening in your neighborhood?